So this video was going to be about constant structure, but I wasn't able to brush up on my knowledge of the subject. When I searched how to improve my CS, all I got were these boring videos about League of Legends. In the shortest explanation possible, constant structure is literally just the same chord moving around to different places. But what are the rules? First, it has to be a sustained sequence of chords with the same chord quality, as the name implies. There is no objective amount of chords in the sequence required to be considered constant structure, but let's just say 3 or 4. It almost always breaks diatonicism, meaning the chords go out of the key. Even though, in D major for instance, E minor 7, F sharp minor 7, and B minor 7 are all diatonic, going between them wouldn't necessarily equate constant structure. The chords have to break the tonality a little bit. Traditionally, the chords are usually in sequence by the same degree, such as major seconds or fifths, for it to be considered true constant structure. But the way I view it, rules are for squares, and if it sounds like constant structure, it is. In application, constant structure can be used for any number of things. Most often it's used as a wonky way to get from point A to point B, either as an overt substitution of functional harmony, or a more ambiguous sequence. Constant structure has played an important part in the harmonic identities of multiple genres. The first one I always think of is neo-soul. It's a joke amongst neo-soul musicians that all of the chords in neo-soul are just major sevenths, but there is a lot of truth to that. Speaking of which,
my spirit is with the breeze, far from the things I used to know. Wild and free, using the truth to let go. Serenity rests in me, far from the things I used to know. I found the strength to let it show.
here, these 3 tensiony major 7 chords underline the melody with a really bright non-diatonic sound, especially when it hits the D flat major 7. Even though there are only 3 chords in the sequence before the C7, I would argue it's enough to establish constant structure for 2 reasons. 1, it repeats for the entirety of the chorus. 2, even though it could be argued these chords are functional harmony, I mostly hear it as non-diatonic funnies which just feel like moving major 7 colors. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Another genre I think of when I think constant structure is house. But since I don't listen to house, let's take a look at a tune clearly inspired by the house genre.
Nakakainis talaga siya.
Run through your clit, you pissed, don't trip. I'ma have to bust you on your lips. And the whips, better have a whole lot of chips. Cause I ain't for no nigga giving tips. Run through your clit, you pissed, don't trip. I'ma have to bust you on your lips. And the whips, better have a whole lot of chips. Cause I ain't for no run through your clit.
Whereas in the truth, the constant structure major 7 chords serve to give it a bright non-diatonic color, these constant structure minor 9 chords give this a dark non-diatonic color. Also similar to the truth, the chord progression ends with a dominant functioning chord that resolves in a so-called incorrect way. In both examples, that final chord serves as a tensiony color that pulls us back to the beginning, as no other chords in the constant structure sequence have any particular pull. Overall, it's a really unique sound that can't be achieved by using conventional functional harmony. But conventional harmonic functionality and constant structure aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. For today's obligatory K-pop tune, let's take a look at Beautiful by 17. Listen to what the synth does.
I want you 모두들 어디를 그리 바쁘게 가는지 옆자리 아저씨 누구랑 통화하는지 모두 너무 바빠 너무 바빠 너무 바빠해 나도 너 생각하느라 너무 바빠 My life is so beautiful My life is so beautiful
This 4-chord sequence functions as a substitute for the classic 2-5 of 4. Without the constant structure, this part would look something like this. By making this constant structure, we interpolate the A flat minor between the A minor and G minor, and then substitute the F sharp minor for the C7, completing the walk down by minor second sequence. My favorite part of this is the F sharp minor 9 substitution. Looking at the chord by itself, it only barely works as a replacement for C7, the only note they share in common being the E. But this works for 2 reasons. Because it walks down by minor seconds, once we hit that F sharp minor 9, we expect to resolve down to the diatonic F major 7, just like C7 would resolve to. Also, since the similar sounding 2-5 of 4 already happened in the previous phrase, we naturally hear this sequence as an acceptable substitute. Also note, the melody hits wonky notes over the chords, like the A flat minor 9. Out of context, the E and C in the melody would sound bizarre over the E flat and B in the A flat minor 9. But the context of this being constant structure makes it so there isn't an exact vertical functionality to it. This is a really common sound and function I found in a few tunes, especially in K-pop. Also common, however, is using this exact same kind of sound to modulate to a different key. Since constant structure is naturally non-diatonic, the instability allows for weird modulations that would otherwise probably sound jarring. Let's take a look at the greatest R&B hit of all time, Monster Seeking Monster's Last Night theme from Jackbox Party Pack 4. I found this tune by accident a few days ago while playing this game with my friends. The tune was so hip, I nearly lost. But I didn't. Anyways, let's take a listen.
For me too, the last chance. Let's make some trouble, 'cause you know now all the points are double. Tonight's the night, baby. The feeling's right, baby. Tonight's the night, baby. The feeling's right.
A few interesting things are happening here. The chord progression for the entire first part of the tune is the simple D minor 9, C major 9, A9, or 2 minor 9, 1 major 9, and 5 of 2 to swing it back around. The constant structure section begins on the 1 major 7 and walks down by minor 2nd until it resolves to the A flat minor 9. This A flat minor is the 2 minor 9 in the exact same chord progression we had at the beginning, but in G flat major now. Using this constant structure walk down, we easily destabilized the key center enough to modulate to a key with 6 more flats without it sounding jarring. Technically speaking, the final A in the sequence acts as a sub-5 of our A flat, resolving down by half step. I particularly enjoy that the new key starts on the 2 minor 9 instead of the 1. It just sits really nice. What's also super cool is the way they modulate back into the original key, so the song loops. Let's take a listen.
There's not another. The only one to choose is me. Then we'll be in ecstasy. Pick me on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Last night, yes, it's true.
That's right, we have the exact same sequence. Because our original key, C major, and our current key, G flat major, are a tritone apart, that final chord in the constant structure sequence has similar function, but is now recontextualized as sounding like the 5 of D minor, which resolves down a 5th, as the counterpart to the sub-5 of A flat minor, which resolves down by half step. As always, I've saved my favorite example for last, but it's a bit unfair because I like this tune for a lot of non-constant structure reasons. The waltzy Overthere Stair from Super Paper Mario is a bit bananas, so let's listen to the entire thing and then I'll break down the constant structure bits. I would love to talk about the other weird stuff in it, but I don't want to veer off topic too much, plus it would make this video another 10 minutes long. Lots of crazy stuff happening here, but let's check out the constant structure. Right here, we're in F major, and then walk down by minor seconds. This leads us to the C sharp augmented, which then voice leads up into G minor, tonicizing that as a new temporary key center. C sharp augmented to G minor is neat in that there is no functional correlation between the two, but the voice leading checks out. The G minor section does something similar to what we just had, then leads us into this nice descending lengthy shape. After the D over A flat, the constant structure takes over the minor second descending bass movement and takes us all the way down to C minor, before voice leading up to the following D major. Something I really enjoy about these instances of constant structure is the way they really illustrate the namesake of the tune. Both instances step down in a literal stair-like pattern, existing not mainly for functional reasons, but because it's cool. And that's cool. Overall, constant structure has many applications. Like anything, it shouldn't be overused, and nuance is really required to make it shine. But when it does, it's hip. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna try to focus on this game of